You can't give me a power of attorney, for example, and I go into a bank and open an account for a client. That's an absolutely 100% personal transaction.
Who can open a bank account in Uruguay, and what do you need to open one? This is one of the questions I am most often asked by foreigners. I'm talking to Mark Teuten, who leads Teuten and Associates, a team of lawyers and notaries. What makes Mark's company unique is that he's the only lawyer in Uruguay to have qualified for both the bar in the UK as well as Uruguay. He moved to Uruguay in 1990 following his wife-to-be, and he prides himself on not being a typical lawyer, and his clients praise him for being approachable and trustworthy. Mark answers my questions and also shares some things that might surprise you about banking in Uruguay.
So can you tell me, who can open up a bank account in Uruguay?
That's a pretty simple question, to which the basic answer is anybody. You don't have to be a resident here, and you don't even have to have applied for residence, so you can open an account as a resident or as a non-resident.
So what do you need to be able to open up the bank account?
The standard documents that banks ask for, and in the case of people coming to the country, they will be applying as non-residents, even if they've already actually applied for resident status here, because of a central bank norm that says until your residence is granted, you're considered for banking purposes a non-resident. So what the banks look for is 3 basic documents. One is a utility statement from your previous home abroad, as recent a statement as possible. Then they want a standard bank reference letter from a bank abroad or your home bank, which is basically a letter just says this is to confirm that X has an account with our bank and that it's in good standing. The banks like to see that on a bank-headed note paper and with a physical signature on it, so that they can and a print of who the person is who signed. And then they want to see the last year's tax return for the person, and if they haven't got a tax return, they'll need to see some sort of proof of income, where the funds are going into the account are coming from. So it's fairly basic.
At the time of opening up the account, do you need to deposit a certain amount of money?
There's just 1 or 2 banks here who ask for you to pay in like 5,000, I think, or some maybe even 10, but that's not the norm. Most banks here, there's no requirement to deposit any amount in to open the account. They will ask how much you're going to pay in as an initial sort of payment into the account. That's just to set up the parameters of the account. So if you say, I'm going to be sending, let's say, $5,000 per month into the account, but I'm going to send 20,000 in first off because I've got some expenditure up front. They want to know that so that the account is set up with those parameters. So it's not a requirement for most banks that you have to pay an amount in.
And what surprises people about banking in Uruguay? Because I think that often people that are unaware of Uruguay, maybe they imagine all sorts of things about the country.
What surprises them in a good way, I think, is that the internet banking is very good. I compare it favorably with my internet banking in the UK, and I find the internet banking here a lot easier. Obviously, the sites are in Spanish, but nowadays with the translating facilities that you can get, I think it's pretty easy for most people to get around. Some of my foreign clients, they initially, have a bit of problem working it out, but once you've got it, it's very good. And obviously you can do more and more everything online, pay all your bills online and stuff like that. So, I would say very easy. That's on the good side. On the downside, obviously, banking charges are more than what a lot of foreign clients are used to, but it's not a major expense for most people. I mean, I'm probably thinking sort of like tops around $50 a month or something. And even that's probably more than most people would spend. It's just the way it is. Some things in Uruguay are cheaper than in other countries. Some things are more expensive.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I pay about $32 a month for my bank account. And another thing I was thinking that might surprise people is the fact that when you open a bank account, you automatically get a US dollar account as well as your Uruguayan peso account set up for you.
Yes, that assuming you apply for that, but that's the way 99.9% of the population work is you have a Uruguayan peso account and a US dollar account, and there's no currency restrictions here in Uruguay, so you can move money in and out of the country freely, and then you can move money in and out of your accounts freely. So what certainly I do, and what I think most people do, is they keep most of their savings, or let's say, or most of their money in dollars, and then they just go along changing into pesos according to their daily needs. And so you can do that again with your online banking, or if you want, you can take the money out physically and go to an exchange house, and you might get a slightly better rate, but not very much these days.
And if people are wondering what things that you might use dollars for in Uruguay, big purchases like buying a house will always be done in dollars. But then often, for example, if we're buying something like a washing machine or even a hand mixer, then chances are the prices might often be given in dollars as well. That's something that I think people are taken by surprise about. All right, let's move on to our last question that I had for you. And that is because I had a consultation client who worked in the cryptocurrency industry, and he was not able to open a bank account here. And I was wondering, can you explain why banks wouldn't have accepted his business?
I think that would be a problem. The banks here are still very wary of crypto, and it all ties in with our anti-money laundering legislation. Let's say the first world country where crypto is more well established and perhaps more understood. Historically, Uruguay had bank secrecy. We've done away with that. And now, as a result, it's harder to open an account here than it would be in the States because the banks are very wary of stuff like this.
You just mentioned to me that opening the bank account is not from one day to the next.
Yes, but for all foreign clients, the banks have to do a know your client process. In my experience, or our experience, it takes at least 2 weeks and probably a month to get an account open. Occasionally, it's been less than that, but you should expect it to take a little time, and that's normal.
And do you need to be in the country?
That is a good question. You 100% have to be in the country. You can't give me a power of attorney, for example, and I go into a bank and open an account for a client. That's an absolutely 100% personal transaction, which must be done in person.
Okay. But I understand that you do offer your clients, it's part of your residency package, right? That you open a bank account for them?
Yes. Well, when we're helping people in doing their residence, most clients need to show their source of income, and they need to show that they're receiving that income in a bank account in Uruguay. So, yeah, we include as part of our package assistance in opening a bank account. But it is something that people can do on their own if they want.
So if you're thinking about relocating to Uruguay, make sure you check out our website, guruguay.com, and hit the Live button. Part of our work involves finding trusted service providers who love working with foreigners and demonstrate consistent quality. Providers like the ones you're listening to now. You'll find them listed in the Live section, as well as hundreds of articles about Uruguay, South America's most charming and most stable nation. And make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Guruguay, to never miss a new video.